Okay, so today we're going to look at how to georeference a map. So what that means is how to take a map and add coordinates to it, so to make it something like a geotiff, and so that you can load it onto maps in Geosoft and use it when you plot other data points. So this picture here is of a region in South Africa. These yellow ellipsoids are dolerite sills they've identified. And so you can see on the x-axis here I've got longitude to the east, and on the y-axis I've got latitude with, as you can see, it's marked south. So I've actually drawn in these lines, linking lines of longitude and latitude, so that I can have 4 points that I'm going to georeference. So ideally they should be 4 points that are far apart. They shouldn't be all in one small region like in the center of the map, because then it's not going to be a very accurate georeferencing. You want them to be on the edges of the map. So I really should have actually not done this point. I probably should have joined a line here with this 31.8, but this isn't too much of a problem. So you just need 4 points on a map. I mean, ideally you probably don't want these lines, because you want your map to show up, your image to not have any other features or lines that you've physically drawn on it. So you could then use a ruler on the computer screen to see, or at least 2 rulers to see where this point is if you didn't want to draw on your map. But you can think of creative ideas on how to accurately get the points that you want. Okay, so I'm going to take this image and I'm going to get it into Geosoft. And so how I do that, so you've opened up your project and you go grid and image, display, and image BMP or TIFF. So we're trying to import an image file. So I'm going through my 3 dots here and I'm searching for that map that I've just created. I saved it on my desktop. I advise that you rather put it in a folder where you can find it again. So I click on it. At this point here, if you open up this window and you don't see your map, it could be because this option down here, file type, is a Geosoft color. And so obviously the map that I have is a PNG file, so it's not picking it up. So I have to physically go here, physically look for PNG. Then my map shows up, I click on it, I click open, it displays it here. I leave transparent color as none. I usually put this to default register for location, and I click on new map, so it's opening up a new window. Map exists because I've actually done this before, and I'm going to say overwrite yes. You shouldn't have to say overwrite because you probably haven't done this before. And then the image shows up, but it's not georeferenced. So you can see when I put my mouse over it, in the bottom right hand corner here it says coordinate system unknown, and these units are just based on the size of the image. So if you try to put it on a map where you've got other data points, it wouldn't plot anywhere realistic. And so now is the time to georeference it. But before you do that, please remember you need to close this map. So close down the map. No, I don't want to, oh sure, I'll save the changes. So if on the bottom left here you can see maps, this is the one I've just loaded. I don't want to use this to georeference because sometimes this causes issues if you have multiple maps that you copied onto one map. So you need to go up here to grids and look for the actual image file that you've imported. So map.png. You can have a TIFF, you can have a JPEG, you can have a BMP, any of these will work. You can see it opens up here, it says map.png. And so now I'm going to start to create a warp file. So the warp file defines the coordinates of points on this map, and it warps it to those coordinates. So what that means is that you click on coordinates, go to georeferencing, define a warp. Click here. So I'm going to give it a name. Again, click on the 3 dots. Just check that it's saving it in a place that's realistic. You can find it again. I'm doing it on my desktop. It's a very bad practice, but it's a good idea to at least have all your files in one place. So I'm going to say warp, and I'm going to say, or let me say warp $right. So that later on when I've got 50 warp files, I know which one is this one. Then make sure you click here on 4-point quadrilateral warp. I'm sure the other ones work, but I've never really used them. I always use this one because this is how I was taught. And definition mode, click on semi-interactive, click OK. It says define the output coordinate system. I would like to do that, so I click yes. I click on geographic because I'm dealing in long and lat, and I click OK. You can do this if you had UTM, so you're in meters, you would just select the projection and choose UTM, and if the datum's WGS84. But we are doing, it is a bit easier because there's less numbers to type in if you use geographic. So it says here, for each control point, click on the point location. So for each of my 4 points that I've drawn on the map, I'm going to click on the location. You will then be prompted to enter the desired coordinates for that point. So I'm literally going to type in if it's 26.1 east. Click on OK when you're ready to define the first point. So I'm ready, I click OK. I click on the first point. I was told that you should try to do it in a clockwise direction starting from the left. So I always try to start bottom left. So I click on this point. The current X and Y are just the random coordinates from the size of the image that was just imported. The new coordinates, the X is going to be 26.1, and the Y, don't forget if it's south, you have to say minus 32. At this point here is 26.1 east, minus 32 south. I'm going to click next. I go to the next point up in a clockwise direction. I click on it. Again, the X is 26.1. Now the Y is minus 31.9. I click next. I click on the next point here. Now we're at 26.4 minus 31.9. Always just double check your numbers as you're going along. And you can see this line actually joins up with a line that's already formed here and one connecting this low point. This is the line showing where it's actually moving this image to. And I'm going to click on the last point is over here. Click on it. And it's 26.4 minus 32. Okay, and I click finished. So now it's defined my warp. Nothing more is going to happen. It's saved it into a file. So now I've got to go coordinates, georeferencing, warp a grid. Grid file, so this is the file that I'm going to change. So it's the one on my desktop. So I have to again go PNG. I think it's further down. There's PNG. So this is the original map I had. It has no coordinates in it. The warp file, it's loaded automatically here. If it doesn't load automatically, click on the 3 dots and navigate to it. And then what is the new file going to be? So I'm going to click on this. Again, I'm saving it on my desktop, and I'm just going to call it map $right. At this point, please just double check what type it's saving the file as. It most likely by default will say Geosoft default. Let's do this and I'll show you how this doesn't work. So leave it as Geosoft default. I'm not going to change the cell size. I'm going to click next. There's nothing I can change here. I'm going to click finished, and it should load in the file. If it doesn't load in the file, you go to grids on the right hand side, right click, add grid, and navigate to where you saved it. So I've saved mine here, map $right, and click on it and it will load it in. And this is the problem with the Geosoft default, is it doesn't pick up the color properly. So let's do it again. So go coordinates, georeferencing, warp a grid, click on this new warped file. So don't click on Geosoft default, we need to change it. You can either change it to Geosoft color, which then will give you the correct colors. It is a grid file then, which might confuse you and you might think, oh, I've got data, but actually it's an image file. So I would suggest rather save it as a geotiff, because then you'll know it was originally an image file. But either will work fine. So I'm clicking on geotiff, clicking save, next, finish. Again, it doesn't load it in. I'm going to close that one, go back to grids, right click, add grids. I can navigate into where I saved the TIFF file. I go to my desktop, it's not here, don't stress. It's because your file type is not selected for geotiff. Geotiff is up here. You can see it appears. I click on map $right TIFF, open, and here's my image. And you can see when I put my mouse over it, down here I've got the correct coordinate system. That's what I would have expected. At this point in time, you might land up with an image that is completely messed up. The most likely problem then is that you put the incorrect coordinates in your warp file. So what you would need to do is navigate to the warp file. So I'm going to go to the desktop. I'm going to look for my warp file here. I've got it's .wrp, warp.dollarite_dollarite.wrp. If there's no option, you can right click on it and go open with, and open it in Notepad or WordPad. Your computer might already recognize what program to open it in, but if not, you can just go to this option and choose WordPad. It's not a very big file, so it should open up quite easily. Unless it's my computer. Okay, and it's telling you here about the datum, and I'm assuming that's your unit. Most importantly are these last 4 lines. So this first column and second column were the original X and Y's, and this third and fourth column are the numbers you typed in. So please go look here and double check if you've made a mistake, if your image comes up incorrect. Make sure these first 2 values should be the same, second 2 X's should be the same, whereas your middle 2 Y's should be the same. This is all dependent on if you started with your bottom left-hand corner and went around. The main thing is that you shouldn't have your 2 X's the same and the 2 Y's the same. It should alternate. Also check that you've put in a negative, maybe you missed out a negative, maybe you swapped your X and your Y around. Just check that your values are correct here. And once you've checked it, you can just reapply the warp. You would just go coordinates, georeferencing, warp a grid, reselect your warp file just to make sure you've got the new one, and click next and finish, and it should be fine. So now that you've got this, you could put other data points or drag it onto a map. I'm just trying to think, I've got nothing here in this project I can show you how to do it. Okay. Well, okay, since I can't show you how to drag it onto a map just yet, let's actually create a decent map that we can plot this on. So how you would do that, you can either go watch the tutorial on creating a map, or I'll just do it quickly here. Map tools, new map from XY. Click on interactive, and you actually want to drag a box around your image. So that didn't work, so I'm going to click on it again because my box was too small. I'm going to click, sorry, my mouse pad is giving troubles. Click and drag around there. You can see it's updated your X and your Y values, so it's going to create a map with these extents. Click on next, give your map a name, so click on the 3 dots to make sure it's saving it in the right place. Map _ $. Click open, so it's going to create a map like this. I don't usually change anything else, I just click finish. It gives us a blank map. I'm now going to click map tools, base map, draw base map. I usually don't change too much here, it's just this value, either 1 or 0. 0 if you don't want a big border around the outside. 1 gives you a bit of a space around the outside. Click next. I like to have edge ticks. I don't usually do solid lines, but it's your choice. What is your grid spacing? This is in degrees, so I think it's about 0.1 for mine, but yours will probably be different. Ideally here, if your map was in UTM, you could click here none, because then it won't mark the UTM edges. But if you click here on add lat long annotations and click edge ticks, it'll then create lat long edge ticks for your UTM file. But I can't do this now because mine is only in lat long. Don't worry if you didn't understand what I just said. I think I explained it in more detail in the maps tutorial. Click on next. You can give a title if you want to your map here. Click finished. You can see I've got longitude and latitudes around the edges. I now can take my image over here, click on the image file, go to Group Manager tool on the left hand side here. If this doesn't appear, just click on this icon and it will appear. Click on your map, this AGG, hold it down and drag across to your blank map. Let go and it will load it in there. So now you've got a decent map that you could plot other points in. A reminder on how to alter this quickly in case you're not sure. If you want to make your coordinates bigger, go here to Group Manager tool, click on coordinates, right click on your map, go edit this group, right click again, select all, right click, text attributes. I'm going to change the size of the text from 1.8 to 3. You can see it a lot better now. If you want to move your scale bar, you can click on it down here and drag. If it doesn't move, just make sure it's selected on this side. Like now I'm selecting my north arrow and I can click on it and drag. Please remember that your scale bar here is in degrees if your map was in degrees. Whereas if your map was in UTM or in meters, your scale bar will be in meters. So that's something to think about when you're choosing your coordinate system. Remember not to drag your scale bar left and right because that's going to change your scale. Only thing to do with your scale bar is to drag it up and down. You can also change the size of the text in the same way. Make sure it's selected in this left-hand Group Manager tool. Then go on the map, right-click on it, edit this group, right-click, select all, right-click, text attributes. Also going to change it to size 3. You can see the values become a lot bigger. It's not so accurate because it's in degrees, so rather do things in meters. And yeah, now you can plot points on top of it. So this is how to georeference a map. And let's just click on the data. So you can see here, if I drag my mouse around the map here, again, there's actually coordinates in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen in degrees. So we've taken a map from arbitrary units to units that you can use in your project.